Hi there, welcome to CT Sews. I'm Colleen, and today I'd like to show you how to make some pin cushions, nice quilted pin cushions. These are some that I have made actually by accident. They were blocks that I was going to throw away because they were spare blocks that I had no need for, and then I decided to just sew them together and turn them into pin cushions because I felt that they were too pretty for the garbage bin. So this was just, two blocks that I accidentally quilted, and then I decided I didn't want to quilt it until the very end when after piecing all my blocks together. But the first two I had quilted, so I just stitched them together. This one was two pieces of leftover sashing that I made for a quilt. I made too much. I think it was the outside border or something, Falling for Autumn by Kimberbell. And it was too long. I had to cut this off, and I thought, I like that. I don't want to throw it away. So I stitched it together, filled it, and turned it into a pin cushion. It's actually my favorite one. And the same, this is a 4x4 blocks. This is 8x8, and I have no idea what this one was. It's probably a 4-inch border design, and then whatever was left once I cut it off from the quilt. And so but today I will intentionally make a pin cushion in the hoop, and I've put cutaway stabilizer in my hoop. You'll need some fabric. For these you don't need to put a fusible backing, they're just fine. But I did put fusible backing on this one simply because it's white and I don't want any ghosting, and also because I am going to put a design on top. I don't really care to put a design on top because I feel that maybe the pins could, spoil it. Where this has got no design, it's just got the background quilting, and it's a pretty design, and I think that's pretty, just like that. And but anyway, this is a plain white with a tiny little polka dot on it. I will put a design on there today, so you'll need some batting, and up to you if you want to use crushed walnut shells. I like that it's nice and weighty. It doesn't move when I'm taking pins in and out of the, it stays put. Whereas this one has got the polyfill, this hobby filled stuff, and that's what happens when you try to pull the pin out. But I don't mind. I'll keep this one by my ironing station, and somehow it works well for me. This one sits so neatly just in front of my sewing machine. It's just perfect for my pins. So anyway, we'll go to the machine and get started. So here we are. I am using a 9.5 by 14 inch hoop, simply because I'm using 6-inch blocks. You can use any size block, any shape block. You can also use any background quilting. There's no rule to stick to a particular one. Just use your imagination, follow your heart, and make what you like. So I'm going to use a design by Juju, backdrop quilting. Unfortunately, I only pulled one out because their designs are so that you cannot read the size. You see how you can't read the size of the quilting blocks? Doesn't matter how big or small you try and make it, it's you just can't read the size. So I had to go and physically change the name of that particular design so that I can read the size. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to use that one, and I'll set it. And then I'm going to add, and I'm just going to put this beautiful girl and set it. Oh, look, there's my pincushion. It sits perfectly right here by my machine. So I've got a big hoop, and this is a 6-inch design. I've already told the machine that I'm using a 9.5 by 14. The machine will know anyway what size hoop you're using because it just knows everything. But by telling the machine what size hoop I'm using, it gives me the outline of the hoop, so I can see exactly what space I have. I can also see that this little cross here is exactly in the middle of my hoop. So I will say embroidery just to combine those two designs together, and I'm going to move it right to the top. And then I'll say okay, and I'm just going to return back and say add, and then I'm going to go and fetch another one of those backdrop quilting, which is this one, right? And I'm going to set it, and this one at the moment is overlapping. I'm just going to move it down, stay within the frame, and press OK, and then embroider, and yep, off we go. So now we can start, and I'll press start, and it's going to give me, it's going to stitch out that first block first. What I've done is, this is going to be the top block, and that's going to be the bottom, the one, this one is going to be at the top, and that one will be the one at the bottom. And because I keep touching my screen, my machine switches off. So at the moment we're going to be stitching the placement line for the batting. I couldn't do a color sort where it will do both blocks together because I've got a design on top of a design. So now we'll place our the lumpy side is usually the back side, and the nice soft side is the top. This is the right side. So I'm just going to place that, covering the whole placement area, and tack it down. For this, you can use the Design by Juju's backdrop quilting, or you can use Kimberbell's background quilting. I usually prefer Kimberbell because it's so much easier. But Juju, her designs are cheaper actually, and you get about 140 files with it. Where Kimberbell you don't get that many, but it's more user friendly. I'm just going to trim the excess batting out of the way and then I'll be back. So I've cut the excess batting out of the way. Now it is going to give me a placement line for my fabric. No, this is Designs by Juju, doesn't give you that. You just have to place your fabric down. So I will just cut and I'll go back a step. I'll just go back a step. Sorry about that. And then I'll just place this fabric down. And this will, it doesn't give you a placement line. It just expects you to put your fabric down and then it will give you a tack down. And the one thing I don't care about is that the tack down is really close to the batting tack down. Whereas Kimberbell would give you, do it a 1/4 inch away. So it gives you that seam allowance without batting, and it just leaves this stitching right out of your way, because when you want to piece your blocks together you run the risk of the stitching showing through onto the main side, which doesn't look really nice. Blocks don't stay perfectly in shape. Once you start quilting and embroidering on it, it always becomes slightly distorted. So this would easily pull in, which means it's going to show in your sewing area. So now we're going to do the background quilting. It's a really pretty design. It's got thread and scissors and bobbins and a machine. I thought that was perfect for a pincushion. So the quilting is done. I thought I'll just show you how pretty that stitching is. So it does show up nice if you use a contrasting color, and that's if you're not putting a design on it. Just use a contrasting color and it shows up nice. Like this one, it's, I've used a brown on a beige fabric and there's nothing else, and it just shows up really nice. With this one, it blends, so it's, personal choice. And so I've changed my thread color and I'll start stitching the design. The design is just all embroidery, so I'll go through, I'll pause the video and I'll do all my color changes and then I'll show you the next step. Our little ballerina is almost done. She's looking very pretty, and once that's done, it will continue to make the next block, which will be down here, and it will be exactly the same as this top part, except that there will be no design on it. So I will continue to make that, and then I will show you how I sew the two together in the hoop. So here we are. I've done all the embroidery. I've done the second block, which is exactly the same as the top block without the ballerina. I used the contrasting color just to show up that pretty embroidery. It really is beautiful, so I thought I'd show it up with a contrasting thread. And that's why I say it's really not necessary to put another design on top of this, because that is pretty as it is. So that's the top one. This is the bottom one. We'll use our lovely seam ripper, or you can use a scissors, whatever. Try not to disturb this block so that it stay within its proper placement that the machine remembers. And we need to remove this one, which we will just slice through it. Sorry, the camera gets in my way. Well, there we go. So this guy is out. And of course I've moved all my pins to show you my pin cushions. So in some designers, when they need to do this, to place it on top, they tell you to use thumbtacks, which you will push through the bottom and so forth. I don't have thumbtacks, and I always forget to buy thumbtacks, so I've decided, and thumbtacks put a big hole in your fabric. So this will be the back. Decide which way. I think this is the right way, not like that, or that looks a bit upside down. That's the right side. So we need this on top of this one. So where we see where the batting was stitched on, we push a pin into that corner. No, okay, we'll put the pin into the corner of the fabric tack down line. So from the back side, you can see that stitching, you can see that stitching on the back side. Maybe you should use a contrast color if you like. I've got pink, so that is contrast. But push it into that corner. If you turn it around, you can see it's in that corner. Do the same to this corner. Right? So we've got a pin going through both sides. Try and place your hoop on a wall mat or ironing board or on your bed, anything that is spongy that can take a pin. Okay, if you use your bed, please make sure you remove all pins. And anyway, so push those pins into those corners and then place it on top of this one, and you can see that one's corner and that one's corner. So it's the stitching of the fabric placement line. So we'll take that pin and we'll push it into that, and this pin, and we'll push it into this corner. Place it down on the wool mat. Make sure it goes straight down. So get the pin up, push it in, and straight down. And the same here, it's in that corner, and you push it into that corner and push it straight down. Don't angle it, because otherwise it's not going to be straight enough. And then we'll get some sticky paper tape, I suppose you call it. This is Kimberbell paper tape, specially made for this purpose. So that's in place. We'll just put some paper tape there to keep that in place. I'll leave those I'll leave those pins in there. And then I'll do the same to these corners. Push it into that corner and into the corner up there. Straight down. And then this should be lined up. It's always worth, just especially with the Juju one, to make sure that that stitch line is lined up with this stitch line. I'll show you the difference with Kimberbell, which is less risky. I'm gonna put paper tape in place there. And I'll get another pin and I'll do the same with this corner. Oops, I don't really have space there, but that's fine. And then you can remove these pins. I think paper tape on the very corners would be most helpful. See, I just want to show you, this is a block from a Kimberbell design, and if you look, you'll see that is the tack down line for the batting, but the tack down line for the fabric, it gives you a good 1/4 of an inch. So I know that when I go and stitch this together on the batting tack down line, this stitching is not going to show through to the main side of the project. But with Juju, hers is really close, so chances are it might show through. So it's just getting used to the difference of the two. I think I'm really spoiled with Kimberbell, so I have to train myself if I want to use the designs that I purchased from Juju. But you know, at the end of the day, both designers are fantastic. It's just having to get used to the difference of their methods. So that's in place now, so let's go back to the machine. So at this stage, the machine has done everything that we've asked it to do. So it's saying that it's finished embroidering, and we'll agree to that. But the design does remain on the screen in case you want to do it again. So we need to go back to the first block and do the second step. It's always, I've done this step in quite a few of my previous videos, and it's always step number 2. So up here it shows 0 out of 18 because it was 18 steps out of this whole pattern. So it says 0. So if you go to the next one, it will jump straight to number 2. So if you have number 2 up there, you're good to go. And usually we'll have a blending thread. I've got purple at the top white at the bottom. Okay, I'm going to put a purple, I'm going to put a blending color thread at the top, and my white bobbin will be fine just for neatness for the side seams. So one moment, let me change my thread. Okay, we've got our purple thread in. We need to leave an opening so that we can turn this through. So we'll stitch a bit, and it's good to always just leave the opening somewhere at the bottom so that it can be a bit more hidden. Always try and keep the top part neat. So as it turns the corner, I'll stop it, and I usually press this button just to tie it off, neaten it, and cut it. And here I will skip, I like to skip 30 stitches, so 10, 20, 30, if it has that space allowance. And then I'll secure that stitch. And off we go. So it's always the tack down stitch for the batting that we use in this step. So I need to stop when it comes there, boom, and just secure that stitch. Cut it. Jump 10 stitches, 30 stitches ahead. Secure it. And off we go. This stitch normally travels twice around, which is good. It keeps everything nice and it just strengthens the seam. And we're done. So now we can go to the table and get it out to the hoop, turn it through and see what it looks like. Okay, it's all out to the hoop now. So I'll just cut probably about a quarter of an inch away from that stitching. But when I get to this opening part, just leave a bit extra because it helps with tucking in the fabric neatly in order to sew that close. So I'll just cut this, try and cut the corners down. Oops. So, turn this through. I like to just scrunch it up, grab the furthest corner, push it through, and then work the rest of it through. will give this an iron first, just because I like it to be nice and flat, and it just helps. It helps with neatness. Let me see. So this is a 6 by 6 inch block. And if you don't have a big hoop, then just do one block in the hoop at a time, not two like I did. And if you do the two, or if you do it individually, make sure that you stitch the back one first and then this one before attaching. It needs to be done first so that you can add it in afterwards. Just try and get those corners pushed out nicely. And you can fill it with crushed wheat or this stuff. And I'm thinking I'm just going to use this. I can always change my mind later, but I'm going to use this because doing crushed wheat in front of the camera, I'll end up with crushed wheat all over the floor and everywhere else because I'm very clumsy. But we will get this full. I didn't iron it like I intended to because of time. So I've used the dark color at the back so that, it won't get dirty that quick as the white would. But I used white at the top so that the girl could show up better, and it's easier to see your pins and needles. I don't even know if I want to use this as a pin cushion because this design is taking up the whole area, and I don't like to press pins into people people and animals. I know it's only a design, but I don't like to press pins into something that a resemblance of a living being. Right, so fill it up to how you would like to fill it up. Tuck that in nicely and just give it a bit of just hand stitch it close, making sure this line goes in. That's the line that we run a risk of showing through, but I'm impressed that it's not showing through in spite of the placement stitch line of the fabric being so close to the stitch line of the batting, because if you put a real dense stitched design, it will distort your fabric, it will pull it in. It's the nature of the game. And so once this is stitched closed, you can use it as a pillow too, not use it as a pillow, but as a decorative pillow. And and you can add some pins if you want to use some pins. I won't press it into my little girly because I don't want to do that. I think I'm going to use it as a decorative pillow rather than a pin cushion. A pin cushion, I would have done that, and that would have been just perfect. 2 pieces like this with that stitching, and that would have made the perfect pin cushion, and so much nicer. So it's up to you. She's pretty, but that's a decoration, and that would be a nice pincushion. Anyway, thank you so much. I hope that this has helped, especially beginners. I try and keep my video beginner friendly. And thank you so much for joining me. Please click like and subscribe. That would be very much appreciated. And thanks for coming along, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.